Hello, I'm Agatha Thrash, a staff physician at UT Pines Institute. We talk a good bit about lifestyle at UT Pines. It has both good things and things that are not so good. And during the next half an hour, we're going to be talking about some of these good things and not so good things about lifestyle, and also some things about stress. So we hope you'll join us.
The following program presents principles designed to promote good health and is not intended to take the place of personalized professional care. The opinions and ideas expressed are those of the speaker. Viewers are encouraged to draw their own conclusions about the information presented. Welcome to Help Yourself to Health with Dr. Agatha Thrash of UT Pines Institute. And now, here's your host, Dr. Thrash.
We have promoted country living for a long time, and that of being a farmer. I grew up on a farm, and when I was a little girl, I thought it was a very helpful lifestyle. In fact, probably it was one of the most helpful lifestyles that one could have at that time. There was very little pollution. In fact, we always expected that we had clean air. Anytime you went outside, you could always expect to breathe clean air, maybe some smoke sometimes. The neighbors might have been burning some leaves and would come wafting over from half a mile or so where the nearest neighbor lived over toward our place, and we could say, the Carters are burning the leaves from there. They must have just raked their yard. But that was about the only thing that we could think of that would cause what we might consider to be air pollution. But now in our day, there are certain lifestyle matters that people who live on farms seem to be adopting that are unhealthful. For instance, here is a report saying that farm workers are more diseased. Well, this is very distressing to me because I encourage people to do country living. And it says that a state agency was investigating this matter, and they found that there were higher rates of brain and leukemia, brain cancer and leukemia, skin and stomach cancers, and many stress disorders in farm workers. Well, I was very unhappy to hear that, because that doesn't seem very good for the idea of country living. And so let me say that while it is true that still the very best place for you to live is in the country, don't bring those lifestyle habits with you that will cause you to develop these serious problems such as brain cancer and stomach cancer and leukemia and a lot of stress-related disorders. Now, concerning this matter, I have asked that Don Miller would talk with me now along with you on some things having to do with an irregular lifestyle. And I see you've got some things here that I suspect with these you're going to illustrate stress.
I'm going to illustrate stress with that, but right now I need to talk about this thing you talked about this irregularity.
All right.
As you know, I was in the Marine Corps for many years, and I was a competition runner. But when I would take my men out to run, some people just are not runners. And they get out there in the field and they start running, and I'd say, look, let's say like for the physical fitness test, they got a 3-mile run. And some people get it in their mind, they just can't do it. Sir, I can't do it, I can't do it. So I said, keep on going. But I knew for sure if they stopped right there and started walking, the next day they would stop right there and stop walking again. Something happened in the mind, because if you got in a habit of stopping there, and only one time, I found it over and over, one time was the habit stopper. And but if I get them to run the whole 3 miles, even if they were, I could walk next to them as they were running, they would run better. Irregularity means we start doing things off a schedule. Their schedule was to run the whole thing, but they got off schedule. We do that thing at nighttime. I was some time ago spending some time in an apartment with another person. I live by myself normally, but there's another person. When they got up at night, they'd turn on the lights. As soon as those lights would go on, it would reset my whole circadian rhythm. And I found that 3 to 4 nights after that I got out of that environment, I would wake up at exactly the same time.
Same time you turned on the lights.
As soon as that light went on, my body says, must be something about this time. And I woke up 3 to 4 nights after that exactly the same time. That's not so bad if it's 4:30. I get up around 4:30, but you know, this is 1:30 in the morning. I don't want to get up at 1.
Shy of night's sleep.
I'm not ready for that. But you know, they find that the morning after the time changes, springs forward, falls backwards. The next day, there are more accidents just about more than any other time of the year.
Is that right?
1 hour. Because our whole rhythm's off. We're irregular now. My father was a policeman for many years. I think it was, they called it a shift. I think the shift changed every 8 weeks. Every 8 weeks, they changed their whole schedule, 8 hours. They had no time to recover before it changed again. And I must say that many of my father's friends, and certainly my father, were just a little bit, well, they had a hard time with that adjustment and made it hard for their families. Because
were they edgy and unpleasant and difficult to live with?
You knew my father.
No.
But that is the case.
But I have known people who lived on an irregular schedule, and they tend to be irritable and cranky. Some people aren't, but many who have that kind of schedule, I think the schedule, the irregularity, causes them to be cranky and irritable.
It does. And now many people say, well, I'm regular. Every morning I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I do all my things and I go to bed at the right time. But then one day on a weekend, they sleep in, sometimes 2 days in a weekend. That's not regular. And it throws their whole system off for the next 5-day cycle of being good boys and girls and getting up at the right time. And so we need to have a schedule. Our whole lives should be scheduled out. We should go to bed at the same time 365 days a year. Get up at the same time 365 days a year. We should eat our meals, our bodies. We have a thing called a circadian rhythm. We've got our bodies getting all ready for this meal. Right now, you may be sitting there and you have just eaten some time ago or not going to eat for another few hours. Your salivary glands aren't ready to get all juicy with saliva because your body's put all those nutrients away, all that salivary amylase and everything is put away in the top shelf, waiting for your body to say, we're supposed to eat in 1 hour. But when we get off schedule, we sit there in the middle of the afternoon, we might say, I need a gummy bear. So we get a gummy bear, we pop a gummy bear in whatever that thing is, and our body says, wait a minute, we don't have any digestive juices to work with this thing, so we've got to get all this equipment together. And when we start getting all this equipment together, it puts a terrible strain on the body. So the irregularity in eating, not just your breakfast and your lunch meal and perhaps a small supper, but eating at different hours all during the day and all during the week. If we eat breakfast Monday through Friday at 6:30, we should eat breakfast at 6:30 on Sabbath morning and on Sunday morning. If we eat lunch at 1 o'clock Monday through Friday, then on Sabbath and Sunday we should eat lunch at 1 o'clock. Now there's a way around that. Don't eat the meal at all. As a matter of fact, here's a rule which is very hard to follow, but if you're trying to live the very best, and basically our plea is one step better every single day. If you are going to miss a meal time, your meal schedule by as much as 15 minutes, you should fast that meal, not eat it at all. Now that's a high standard, I realize, and especially in today's world that we're living in. I travel around the world. And one day I traveled to India. When I traveled to the last trip to India, I was 12.5 hours off what I was back home. And it's going to take a while. I find it the best thing there because now I'm going to be extremely irregular to do anything. I just should not eat for a whole day. I should try to get as much exercise and water as I can, and then start a new schedule and let your body adjust. You know, it's sort of like flying an airplane. I've always found that if you're flying an airplane and you go into a spin, usually the best plan for the spin is, if you're flying a small airplane like I fly, is just let go. The airplane will take care of itself. And the same way with the body. Just quit forcing it into a mold, quit doing everything, fast for a day or two, and let yourself go back into a very regular schedule. And I think, Dr. Thrass, this irregularity is causing a lot of problems in our world today. And we need to get regular.
Yes, one of the things that irregularity causes is loss of sleep. As Don Miller was saying, when you get off your schedule, many things go wrong at one time. And not going to bed at the same time every day can make it so that the body gets so it doesn't know when it's supposed to go to sleep. If you will allow it to, the body will tell itself, this is the time to go to sleep, this is the time to eat, this is the time to exercise, this is the time to wake up and do your office work or whatever. And if you will be regular in your schedule, it will help you a lot. There are some other things that will help you to sleep. If you will exercise every day, that will also greatly increase your likelihood of having a good, regular sleep pattern. Then another thing, if you have difficulty getting to sleep at night, if you will limit the number of foods you have at your last meal, just the number of dishes, you can eat an adequate quantity, but don't eat too many dishes, such as potatoes and beans and strawberries and lemons and squash and potatoes, all at one meal. If you have them all at one meal, then the more things you add to the meal, the less likely you are to have a good night of sleep that very night. And so try that as a way to get to sleep on time. Another thing that will help you to get to sleep is to be certain that you're comfortable. Sometimes a person will have a backache or knee aches or foot pains or headaches, and they aren't certain exactly why they have these, and they just a little bit achy, but it's not so definite that they think I'm sick with it, so they think, well, I'll just go to bed and go to sleep and it will go away. So they go to bed, and maybe the headache does cease to be noticed, but still they can't sleep. Sometimes the reason for that is that the ache or pain is still there. You just now don't have it right up to the edge of your consciousness so that you can put your finger on it. So try to get rid of any kind of ache or pain with some kind of hydrotherapy, such as a nice neutral bath before you go to bed, or drink a glass of water. Many people will not drink at night because they think, well, if I drink, then it's for sure going to get me up, and then I won't be able to go back to sleep. If you have that problem, set a cup of catnip tea on the nightstand so that if you should wake up, then you can drink the tea and then go back to bed. Now, it's a good habit to drink at night, because people who drink when they get up at night reduce the likelihood that they will get a stroke. And so you can see that as we do one good lifestyle habit, that tends to lead into another very good feature of our health. And so we always want to make certain about that. Be careful also about eating too frequently and eating too much. Both of these accelerate the rate at which you age. They interfere with sleep. They increase the rate at which you accept stress. They are more likely to make you so that you become frustrated or angry or irritable, so that life does not treat you as well as you think it should. Now, Don Miller is going to talk with you about foods that are too rich. In addition to our having too much and eating too frequently, we can overeat by simply eating foods that are too rich. So, Don Miller, what do you have to tell us about foods that are too rich?
Well, you know, most of the foods that we do eat in the Western world are too rich, and they're too high in fat, too high in refined carbohydrates, too high in too many things. And I've got just a couple of things I'd like to read. This one comes out of the magazine called East West. Listen to this. For better or for worse, the nutrients from your last meal are influencing your mood and thinking at this moment. So whatever you ate is what you are becoming right now. We realize that going back into the Bible says the life is in the blood. And so whatever you've eaten in your food has become your blood, and it is what is making your thoughts, your hormones, your tissues, everything about you is from your food. And so what are some of the results of this food thing? Here's an article, or this is a scientific study. It says a high-fat diet induces aggressive behavior in male mice and rats. Now, granted, you may not be a mouse or a rat, but these high-fat diets, they say, are inducing aggressive behavior. And I believe that because we've been using mice and rats for many, many years as a pre-human study, this is going to be proved out in a human study. And so the high-fat diets that we have in this world, especially in the Western world. Now, one of the greatest manifestations of the high-fat diet is obesity. And we can see that that is a very real problem in this country. I travel to areas where you don't see obesity, except for in those people who have the money to adopt the Western lifestyle. I go to India, I go to Africa, I go to Eastern Europe, and you don't see that many real fat people because they've got to live very simply. And so one of the downsides of the diet too rich is the fact that we're eating too much fat. Here's an interesting statement here. Americans drank, this is in the year 2000, 15 billion gallons of pop in the year 2000. 15 billion gallons. Basically, it says here that American children between the ages of 12 and 19 consume about half a quart of pop a day, or almost a gallon a week. And they get my share, and all of our students at UT Pine share. They get all of their share. So some students are eating a whole lot more than that in their too rich of a diet. And so we need to get back to simple diets. All right, what's the opposite of a rich diet? The opposite of a rich diet is a complex carbohydrate diet, eating fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, and seeds. It's the diet of Eden. It's the diet I think God wants us on today, that we can live better, longer, healthier, and someday live forever, Dr. Thrash.
Amen. I mentioned to you some things that can help you to sleep, and I would like to say that a simple device such as this, you may not always find this kind of thing in this country. I picked this up in Korea, where they tend to have a lot of things that can help people to feel better about themselves. So if you should have a backache, one of these muscles here beside your spine aches or is tender, then you just do this kind of thing with it, and this is peculiarly adapted. It just has just the right angle to rake right across some of those very tender muscles, and can make that very nice. Then you can also find something that's made in this country. I got this from a drug company, and it's actually for doing a knee jerk, but it also works very nicely on the back. All you have to do is just these little rubber parts that you can see here. You just tap yourself with it like that, or tap up on the shoulder like that. And as you do this, it just relaxes those muscles, and I can feel it right now. Just as I do that, it's just relaxing and very nice. Now, some people actually have an itch on the back. You can't reach the back very well, and so there are these scrubbers that you can buy. I've seen them in Chinese shops, these long sheets of very coarse, I guess sort of plastic sheets, and you can just do this kind of thing and rub the dead skin off your back, and it's a good practice to do that. Some people don't do that, but you can get this kind of thing, and this is dry, and with a dry brush, such as you can buy down at Walmart or any other department store, you can just work the back with this, and as you rub the back, you'd be surprised how it's very much like a massage. And you may not be a professional person, but you can certainly massage your back a little bit with something as simple as this. Then another thing that will relieve tension is a simple hand gripper. Just use a hand gripper like this, and as you work the hand gripper, do you know that a hand gripper like this will also lower your blood pressure? And they have also found that a hand gripper such as this will lower the pressure inside your eyes. In other words, it will make it so that you are less likely to have glaucoma. Interesting things that are being learned today. I wouldn't miss living in this age of Earth's history for anything. There's just so much scientific that's being learned today. Now, I have a number of scientific articles, just like Don Miller had, that I'd like to just mention for you. It's a great temptation to not just share all of the things that we learn from the scientific literature, but here is one about having a quiet stomach. If your stomach is troublesome to you, either while you eat or after you eat, here is something that will help you to know what to do to quiet your stomach. Chewing quiets the stomach. Did you know that before? I didn't know that before I read that, but when a person chews, the very act of chewing makes it so that the stomach is a little bit more quiet than it would be. Then as soon as you begin to load the mouth, then the stomach picks up its activity and moves a little bit. Then you begin to chew again, and then your stomach is quiet again. So it rests the stomach when you chew. So remember that. It's they used to say, Fletcherize your food. Well, that I think was 40 times you were supposed to chew. I don't think you ought to count, but at any rate, you should know that you should chew your food well. Now, a high-fat meal will cause the interior of your blood vessels to malfunction. Now, the lining of the blood vessels, called the endothelium, controls to a large degree our blood pressure and also the flow of blood through the blood vessels. And so we want to be very careful not to eat high fatty meals because it damages the endothelium. And oats and vitamin E, foods that are high in vitamin E, such as all of the whole grains and nuts and seeds, and things like avocado with a very nice fat that it has, and olives. These are all very good foods that help to prevent this endothelial problem. Now, another thing that's a big trial to us, and that's the stress of kidney stones. Kidney stones are related to stress. The more stress we have, the greater the likelihood that we will get a problem with kidney stones. So I'd like just to tell you some of the things that can cause kidney stones. A high protein diet, milk drinking, refined carbohydrates, animal products, alcohol. If you take too much of vitamin A or vitamin C supplements, that can cause kidney stones in some people. Worcestershire sauce, sedentary lifestyle, and the preventive for all of these is, of course, doing the opposite. A low-protein diet or avoiding dairy milk, a vegan diet, and so forth. These things can control many of these serious causes of kidney stones. Now, there are so many things about kidney stones. I'm sure that there are many who would like to know just how they can avoid kidney stones. Let me just say this. If you take a lot of ascorbic acid or vitamin C, some people will form kidney stones from that. And women who are susceptible to iron overload also need to be careful not to take too much vitamin C because it can encourage iron overload in some. Phytate, which is present in grains, can reduce kidney stone formation that would make oxalate stones. And of course, if you reduce your stresses, that will reduce your kidney stones. Exercise neutralizes stress. Remember that little jingle that we try to teach everyone? So if you are prone to kidney stones, remember to get exercise, and that will neutralize your stress. And remember that lemon juice can help to prevent kidney stones. That was a very nice study that was done. I was happy to see that. Something so simple as lemon juice. Of course, it has citric acid in it, and that can be helpful for that. And lemon juice, just squeeze a lemon in some water every day, and that can be helpful to you. Don Miller, what can you tell us about stress and how to control stress?
Well, I like the subject of stress. I was in Africa teaching anatomy and physiology. When I got to the part about the different hormones we have in our body, and I was talking about the sympathetic nervous system, and I thought, I really want to test my sympathetic nervous system. And so every day I would walk up on what's called the escarpment out into the bush, and I was hoping to come across either a black mamba or a puff adder or a cobra just to see what happens in the body. I never did run into one, but when I was down in Zimbabwe one day with my friend, we ran into a couple of lions, and we wanted to take the pictures of the lions and everything, and it was sort of exciting. And
I can imagine.
But the trouble is, the male lion was just laying there looking at us, and just head down on his hands. And I says, "Lion, you got to get up and do something. This isn't very exciting." And so I hit the car door to see if maybe I could get him to do something. He just blinked and opened the car door, and I closed it, and he didn't do anything. And I opened the car door, and I stuck my leg out, and it didn't even move. So I got skinny legs. I put another leg out next to that one, and it didn't move. And so I stood up and behind the door looking out there, and the lion just stood there. So I stepped away, kept hold of the car door, and he just lay there. Then I took a walk away from the vehicle, and at that point, the back end of the lion went up in the air, and I got my first real test of my sympathetic nervous system. I didn't have to ask my legs to do it. I didn't have to ask my blood pressure to go up, my vascular system to open up, my eyes get really dilated. I just had to just stand by and let it take over, and I was in that vehicle so fast. So it really does work. That's stress. That's a type of a stress that we get, Dr. Thrash, but we get the same stress reaction when I'm sitting there trying to get to the airport in my car, and I see that I'm going to be late. The same stress. So how do you handle that? I can't run down the road. I can't jump in the vehicle. I'm in the vehicle and I've got all this stress. And it's how we manage the stress. People manage it different ways. Some people manage stress sort of like this. They get bent by circumstances of life, the vicissitudes and everything in life. They just bend, and when you let go, they go right back. Before long, they're going to be right back in the same old way again. That's the way I want to be. You have other people that they get into a stressful situation, and it bends them, and pretty soon, I can't even bend this thing, you get kinked. And once you get kinked, it's going to take some work to get it back into the same shape again. But it will eventually get back there. But then we get some people, because they allow stress to build up in their system. They don't go out and get some exercise, which will neutralize it. If you're stuck in traffic, trying to get to the airport, and you're going to miss your airplane, and your car's not moving, get out and run around your car a few times. Otherwise, you might be like this type of a stressful person, and it's going to bend until it breaks. And then you're really in trouble, because some people do break because of stress. God has given us a stress response. I'm thankful for it, because there's been times in my life I've needed it. And I was thankful to have it. But when I don't need it, and it's just going to do me damage, I've got to sit there and I've got to give it to the Lord, because He can take care of my stress.
Yes, He can. And it's also a fact that there are things that we can do in lifestyle that can help us to deal with stress. We've mentioned exercise, but let me say that exercise itself can become stressful if we overdo it. Almost anything in life that we overdo on can become stressful for us, even going to bed on time and eating our meals on time. If we're too punctilious with this, and it absolutely must be right now, or we're going to be most unhappy, then this kind of thing itself can become stressful. We know that we should not generally take a lot of liquid foods when we're eating solid foods. I have an article from the Journal of Gastroenterology here, published just this past year, on gastric emptying of liquids when there are also solids in the stomach, and the delay that's caused and the improper digestion that occurs because of that. But if we are so punctilious about this that we cannot take anything, we couldn't even take a little soup because we cannot tolerate to have anything that's not precisely on what we consider to be our definition of a perfect lifestyle, even that can also become stressful. But regularity, having a proper eating routine that we do every day, and a proper way that we eat, and we know the way that we should eat, and we do these things always, then this can allay stress and can make it so that we can talk with our Heavenly Father. We can put these things that are stressful to us and that we don't understand right in His lap and receive His comfort and receive His peace. And may the Lord give you that very peace.